Welcome everyone to another episode of Coffee and Whiteboard Markers. I'm joined by my co-host Jody Eppier.
How are you?
I'm Miles O'Kane. We look forward to taking you all along for the ride. So we apologise off the bat for missing a few. We've all had personal problems going on, personal situations. But the good news is we're back in action, my man, up and swinging, and here we go. So when I wrote this a couple of weeks ago, we're just coming off holidays, so a few of the questions and content's going to be a little bit different. But in saying that, week 3, term 3, how are we feeling?
I'm like, even besides the weather, just watching the kids just get into the groove of things. And I've just saying to you earlier off camera, is one of those things where just really enjoying the classes, just enjoying the maturity that a lot of the kids are bringing now. But I think a lot of that just honestly stems from the work you put in early in the year. Yeah. To actually see it come to fruition. Yeah. That's the stuff. It's awesome.
Mate, I think that and the sun being out, I'm definitely happy now the sun's coming out. We were having that discussion before going, how weird's it been, especially on the weekend. You have one day full of incredible weather and the next day it changes straight away. My question to you is, now again, wrote this a couple of weeks ago, heading off holidays. So what are some things we can expect for term 3 to deliver us? We'll go one for one here. No reports. Term 2 is full on, isn't it? Term 2 is busy. I think term 2 is the hardest term.
It is, bro, because it's in the middle of the year. It's that cold part of the year coming.
Weather sucks.
Yeah. And having to do reports.
People are sick days, doing extra work, reports, data, parent nights.
Yep. Having to also do a lot of internal cover.
You're the internal superstar. Right. You've almost got a second job with the internal relief.
See, you build a great relationship with the powers to be. When time comes, bro, it all is like one of those.
I reckon you're just in it for the money, mate. No, you definitely do a very good job. Your turn, term 3.
Oh, bro, I think term 3, in regards to the great thing is, I'm going to jump on the back of that. No report writing, because what it is just focus on the assessments and also the timing. The timing of the assessments, we've got actually, let's just say, not a little bit more time, but it's a lot more relaxed in the sense that you can actually sink your teeth into the
programs. You do, like I find that especially towards the end of term 2, you find yourself pushing the pace of in class, which can get a little bit overwhelming and frustrating. Whereas term 2 semester 2 lower school definitely seems to calm down. Athletics carnival on week 8, week 9, mate. Strolled out to the oval today, saw the lanes up on the oval. Good old 300-metre track. Looks all right though. All right. I always get a bit happy when I see the track out.
It's one of those things.
My days back.
It's one of those things when you know it's a time of the year when the kids are out there. We know that the weather's going to start to get better, and kids are starting to feel a lot more happier and stuff and so forth. You know, you don't have to keep the room extremely warm. The kids are naturally warm and stuff. So, as the rest of this term progresses, I'd say at least around week 6, week 7, 8, it'll start to lift the whole morale around the whole room. And class and
before we know the aircon's on, 5 days a week, 9 to 3.
Absolutely.
All right, so today's episode, I think we're going to follow on from our previous episode, looking at a segment of things people do that drive us crazy or wild. Last episode was looking at students. Now we're looking at non-teaching folk. Non-teaching folk being people that aren't teachers. Again, this is said in jest mainly. This is from our perspective. So if you are a non-teacher and listening, we love you. Thank you for listening. I'm not having a crack at you. It's just, I'm sure every profession's got this out of here. So the focus is non-teaching folk, stuff that drives us insane. Now, I think in previous episodes, we've touched on similar stuff, so we do apologise if you heard it before. But like anything, it always sounds better the second time round. I'll start first. Must be great finishing at 3 p.m. each day. These days it is. These days, 16 years later, it definitely is. But it took a decade to get here. Now, again, I wasn't staying until my early years as a graduate. I'll be at 5 or 6 p.m, but I was young and didn't have family commitments and, was dedicating myself to my job. But even up to about 5 years ago, even up to 3 years ago, I was leaving at 4 p.m. Now I had to give myself strict guidelines to leave at 4 p.m. But I talk to people who aren't teachers, and I used to think they were just trying to stir me up, but these days it seems like legitimately think that 9 to 3 you're done. You're like, surely you think there's got to be marking and stuff done and planning. Like there's more than teaching, just the hour you're with the class in the classroom.
I'm going to jump on with how there's a perception out there with non-teaching staff that we just get all these holidays.
So many holidays.
It's like, I think you guys every 10 weeks you guys get 2, and it's just like you guys end up doing nothing and so forth. And as true as it may seem, I think what it is just all the work that you have to do prior to at the beginning of the year to
Yeah.
ensure these things are you are able to get out there and do.
Yeah.
Just relax and just have holidays. But sometimes there are things that you have to keep on top of, things that are unforeseen,
Yeah.
that you have to do or plan for. Thinking about the students that we have and what's coming up, the assessments and so forth. But if everything is done at the beginning of the year, you have an overview of each term, you have an overview of what's happening and breaking it down per week, and then having a look at what's the assessments that are coming up. Yeah, it's that stuff, that doesn't just happen, and it's neat when it's all put together, but if that's not done, bro.
So my personal pride used to get affected when people used to have a crack at me for leaving at 3 p.m. Like teaching folk, I'm like, hold on, it took me years to fine tune this process. Yeah. This isn't just rocking acts on Slack. I've refined over the years to finally get to a point where I can have a work-life balance again. And I mean, like you're saying, the other thing with holidays is you're spending like that. If it's the 2 weeks holidays, the first week you're recovering, and the second week a little bit of planning. Now it shouldn't be that way. We're not suggesting you do that as a teacher, but the holidays aren't just kick back and watch sports 24/7.
Oh, that as you say, sometimes that first week is the week just to defrag and just to get back into whatever else. And then see, when you're defragging, the rest of life doesn't just stop. There are still things to be done around the place.
I used to pride myself in getting my to-do list. So is any tasks that come up during the term I can't get done, I just have a holiday checklist.
Yeah.
Man, this one with the baby, there's like nothing I get done these days. My house is falling apart. Not that I'm a great handyman, but I used to do some basic stuff.
Oh.
Students master everything the first time you teach them. How hard can teaching be? There's this stuff, just teach them. I'm like, but then you deal with that's not even counting the behaviour and the mental health and everything else. Like it takes something to be able to teach it. Like you're good at maths, you'll be able to teach math. It's almost harder because like I found going through school, the better the teachers were at math, the more I got confused. Until upper school, lower school definitely. And I wasn't anyway a stalwart of the academics, but it's it's a two-edged sword. Like the more you know about a subject, probably the more in depth you go about it.
Yeah.
Which these days kids don't necessarily need. The other thing that kind of disheartens me is most stuff. Like I learnt about Roman history in a 10-minute YouTube video. That used to take like a semester at school.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can just teach yourself anything these days.
Oh yeah.
So here we are spending 2 weeks on indices, where you could watch a 10-minute video. And I'm not saying that AI is going to take over, but I used to not be concerned. Now I'm a little bit concerned.
Oh, like jumping on what you were just saying there, it's so true, what you can teach kids and so forth. But I had a teacher, as you say, he was marvellous.
Yeah.
Like knew concepts inside out, but struggled to actually teach it because of the fact that he was so intricate and so he couldn't adapt it to the clientele.
Yeah.
So it was like how he was taught and how he sees it, that's it. So we struggled at the time going through school, struggled to try and understand the concepts. So what I've done is I've taken that and tried to make it so that it's adaptable to anyone's situation, be it that you had a bad relationship with math and you come into the topic and then all of a sudden it's like, I got a bad relationship, but you can still succeed. And it's one of those things. So a lot of parents out there or a lot of non-teaching staff that don't know, there are so many hats you are wearing at the same time. It's not just math teacher hat and that's it. Mm-hmm. As you're saying, there's behaviour, there's even I had a kid at one school who unfortunately one of the parents had passed away. But so automatically one of the things you simply say to this kid, if there's anything we can do for you, I was a lot more lenient on allowing him to do just to chill and he wasn't disruptive or anything. So it's one of those things. It's not one fits all. It's not that one size fits all. You're constantly checking in. I do a lot of checking in on noise levels. If I can notice that there's a little bit of chatter or a little bit and it's starting to rise up, then I'll pop my head up and have a look what's going on here. Then I'll check in with those kids who are making a little bit of noise. How are you guys getting on? What's going on
Do you reckon I reckon I'm a hypervigilant person by nature, and then teaching has made me more hypervigilant. Are you a hypervigilant person by nature? Yeah. And I think in teaching you need it though, especially those more difficult schools that we've worked at. Like it's
neat too, because when you take on a prac teacher, it's like it's not you don't expect them to be just as vigilant or hyper vigilant about maintaining those sorts of things, but it really sticks itself out if they're not noticing it or if they're not seeing it, and you're like, he's going to say anything, they're going to say anything, and then when it gets too much out of hand, I just can't help it and say, hey, and redirect everything, put everything back on track.
Because it spreads like wildfire as well, doesn't it? Like it's
so easy, so quick.
It's not even like a student screaming and stuff, but if another student's hear other students talking and they start talking before you know it, it's just all off-task behaviour.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're constantly these days as teachers fighting short attention spans and stuff. So that makes it, adds to the fire a bit as well.
So if you can minimise that, bro, so you can minimise the little spot fires, so they don't occur, the actual lesson is quite smooth.
Yeah.
But I think these are the intricacies that a lot of non-teaching people don't see.
For sure. And I think, exactly right, man. And I think you can write all these books on it, and but until you actually go and observe it, there's a lot of teaching is non-verbal and seeing stuff. My next question on that was, so with it, my point being, what did I say? Just people non-teaching folk think it's just learn stuff the first time.
Yeah.
Have you, as a person, like outside of teaching, have you learned anything recently? Someone's had to teach you something? So we took our dog to dog school a couple of years ago, and just so each couple of weeks you progress up if you're good. We went straight up. You progress up, you're good, and you have a different instructor for a couple of weeks, blah blah. Each instructor would be like, do this, and if we couldn't do it, they were like, just do this, and you're like, but this is not what teaching is. Like, you got to find. I'm trying. You've got to find a way to bridge that gap between me not knowing and you explaining better. And I think that's no matter what you're doing, in how to explain something to someone is definitely a way to do it. I know when I first started teaching, I'd obviously go into teacher mode as well with my friends, not knowing. So when I explain stuff to them, I break it down. I'm like, we're not idiots. We get this. But these days, like, I explain stuff because I know, and it's probably drilled into my head, if I don't explain it first the right time, usually there's 20 different students asking me. So I just get used to being, and even outside the classroom, when I explain something, be really synthesised with it.
Yeah, bro.
And then direct. And then if you can't get it, it's on you. No, it's you constantly. But yeah, people don't see, like you're saying, the nuance to teaching and how to explain stuff. I think there's definitely a craft to it and a skill to it.
As I think I looked at Pythag and looked at Trig, and just having to break it down and making it easier for, like, as we got older in the profession and understanding this stuff, to us it seems, this and that. But then trying to make it, because as you say, students with short attention spans, with all these other things that students are going through at the same time, you've got to try and sell a concept that they're like, oh, I get that. But to get to that point, there's so many different things that can be done. So instead of me doing A plus B, I'll go, well, what sort of sides are these? Are they short and the short? So I said, oh, there we go. We'll use that as a formula. Short plus short will give us the long. Let's add them. And I said, so what if we want to find the short side? And they go, oh, that's a long side. So what are we going to do with that? They go, oh, let's take away this. Sorry, long take short. And then you hear these kids say it, oh, it's short plus short. Oh, it's long take short. Now, even though mathematically it's not in the right concept of thing, but it's the same concept. At the end of the day, it'll still get the same outcome as long as they can put the same values in to justify what their answer is. So it's just trying to, it's you're manipulating things around to the point where the kids are like, oh, this is so easy.
I think maths, those are math textbooks we use, and they're not. But I think math textbooks in general have such like old school notation in there.
Yeah.
That's half the problem as well.
Yeah.
And not saying that they're not wrong either, but the kids see they're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Where just explaining what the notation is, suddenly, oh, they can see the skill and know how to apply the skill.
But like I think I'm training my sevens anyway. My sevens are quite good at it. Is understanding what we do with the textbook. See, and these are the things I think a lot of non-teaching staff don't see is, it's not just give them a book and they'll start learning. There's certain things you want them to learn or to pick out and where to put it and so forth.
Yeah.
So my kids, especially my sevens, understand that if it's a key idea or if it's a key note that they need to write down as a notes part, they'll put it into their notes section of their book, and then the rest of the work that's practicing to get, to understand the concept, they go back to the front. And it was even teaching kids how to work a textbook. Now,
I like to do that. Like explicitly exchange it.
Right.
Yeah, turn to this page.
Yeah.
And then if you've got question 1, part A, B, C, D, E, like it's all of question 1. It's not just question 1's not part A.
Yeah.
It's like they've never seen a textbook before. I'm like, That's all. Like, that's how I learned math back in the day. Like, you guys have been blessed not having this.
But see, that's where a lot of non-teaching staff don't realise this sort of stuff actually happens.
The small things.
They don't see it. They don't.
Yeah.
Well, and it's truth on their behalf. But coming from a teacher's point of view, it's just trying to make them know is that it's not just, hey, get a book and start learning. It's not that at all. There's so many little conversations that you got to have. So a lot of reminders. A lot of it is reminding kids how to do things and checking in with them, making sure that thing.
Yeah, and the fear of math. Math, I don't know, I want to explore a few other subjects here and there in my time, but math seems to be always feared as well. So, but as soon as students lose a little bit of confidence, that it's the floodgates open and they just shut down. So it's constantly trying to re-engage them and re-motivate them. Those who can't teach, this strikes a nerve with me because it sort of just devalues the whole profession.
Oh, bro.
Like I got into teaching like yourself to make a difference and to change lives, and it's just people come up and go, oh, you probably couldn't do this, so you're a teacher. I'm like, no, I chose to do this.
Yeah.
I had options out there and I chose to come back into teaching. But saying that, like I gone through high school, never had a good teacher, never enjoyed school, never thought about teaching, and then came back into it. I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I hear that, and though it's usually people try to say it in jest and laugh it off.
Yeah.
It's not really that funny.
No.
Because I think hundreds of years ago, teaching was one of the most noble professions out there, and the great scholars and wise people out there were the ones delivering the content and the lessons. Whereas these days, definitely, I think in Australia, it's devalued the profession.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where a lot of people forget that in order for a lot of people to get into a profession, irrespective of the profession, you've got to at some stage have gone through teaching or gone through the methods of receiving teaching from a teacher to understand. So it's almost like when they say those who can't, that one gets me as well. That irks me as well. When I hear that being said, I'm like, oh man, you guys don't understand. It's people. There are teachers who get into this profession to try and, as you go, make a change in kids, make education easier, and get enjoyment out of what. And hopefully, if your impact is big enough, that you hopefully get kids to go, wow, this is great, and then they move on to success as they become adults, and then they reflect back on. Hopefully, some of them turn out to be teachers and so forth, because they had great experiences with teachers, as I got into the profession because of a teacher. So, yeah.
Do you find that I can find now, if I'm asking students what their jobs are later in life, and I think they'd suit teaching. Have you thought about teaching? And they never really have. And they think about it. I'm like, look, obviously it's good lifestyle, and you get the reward factor, helping people. It's difficult, and you see their minds ticking. You're like,
There are some natural kids in some classes that actually help other kids quite a lot. And when they get posed with that question, it's because it's not on their radar. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, they just naturally help someone because they want them to understand stuff. And I said, you've actually got the temperament of being a great teacher. You're patient with this person. You try and explain to this. And then when you say that to them, some kids are like, wow, I never thought of it like that. Never thought of doing something like that. I said, well, these are the things that you've got some teachers that have patience and can actually work their way through stuff, explain things.
Yeah.
And then you got some teachers, and unfortunately, there are, depending on the clientele of the student, will determine on how quick things are delivered. If you're working with a bunch of kids who are academically really, really up there and got everything given to them in the sense of all resources, your speech changes, your delivery changes, everything else changes. But when you've got working in with the students that we have, it's having to modify to the kids so that they get the understanding. It's a waste of time talking up to the clouds when everybody's down here trying to figure out what's going on here. So it's one of those things. I think that's something that non-teaching staff's got to realise, is that teaching comes in many different forms, bro.
So many different forms. I've got time for a couple more. Students who misbehave, just send them outside of the classroom. I can't remember, I've only come across this once. I think maybe I was at a dinner party or I was at a dinner or something. And I was talking to someone I just met. And I'm like, yeah, surely they just misbehaved, just send them outside and teach them a lesson that way. Oh, yeah, but when was the last time you were at school? Have you come? Maybe if I'm at like a top preparatory school and paying top money, that happens. But I've never worked at those schools. And good on you if you are not having a crack. But it's just like, it's not the 1960s either. Like, it's just, you say something and kids listen.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships these days.
That's
If you
right.
don't have a relationship So you constantly, it's give and take. You need for the kids to be able to respect you, but you build that respect as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I kind of, when that was said to me, you refrain yourself from going, have you got this far in life to the other person? But then you kind of like, no, that's not how it works. And then you step them through what the situation is when that happens. Like, oh, is that how much goes on? And you're like, how do you not think that all the way through?
Did you point to them? Get outside.
Out now. And they get out and stand by the door exactly shoulder width apart for 3 minutes.
Shortly.
No. If they don't run off, that's a win.
I think that's so true, and see, that's the context that we're working in. And as you're saying that, I honestly believe teachers of today are well more equipped, in the sense, will have to be well more equipped with such diverse kids that we have and the circumstances that we work in. As you say, 1960s, very rigid. I say you do. I just say jump, you jump. Kids today, for a lot of kids, a lot of parents or a lot of non-teaching staff, if you say you just send them outside, as you said, you're lucky for that. Some kids are sitting outside waiting. So these are all the things that have changed since they've been at school. And I think a lot of the comments that are made regarding around teaching from non-teaching staff or non-teaching people is it's based on their experience when they were at school. And so schools have evolved, education has changed, the art of teaching, the core concepts are there, but your ability to wear so many different hats at one time, having to negotiate, having to do this, teaching kids how to be patient, to kids coming into the school, into class late, taking through some kids through problems that they don't understand, in a sense, mathematically. So I think teachers of today are a lot more equipped and a lot more resilient, or having to be a lot more resilient, because the winning of battles,
there's a lot more
depending on the
plate,
battles.
isn't there?
Oh, it is right.
Okay, the last one. I think this is more implied than said. So I think so typical teachers sacrifice themselves, their income, their energy for the good of their students, and the expectation being this is what they should do. Now again, it's not said, but the amount of times that you're buying your resources out of your own money, food out of your own money, and again we all do it because we're good people and want to help people, but it kind of feels like that's expected at times, or that's not expected. It's implied that's what happens. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so true. There is an expectation, or almost like a entitlement. That's what teachers do, just because. But you got to realise, what a lot of people got to realise is there's a lot of teachers out there with their own families, or starting their own families, or have got many other things that they've got to keep on top of. Should you have a teacher that does go that extra mile to support, however, great. That's just an add-on, but it's not a something that, unfortunately, it's not always you can do that. Looking into this professional development I was doing today regarding ethical, what we do as teachers. It's a reminder of things we can and cannot do, even though out of the goodness of our hearts that we want to do certain things with people. We just got to be reminded.
Yeah, the framework's definitely grown over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Look, I agree with what you're saying. I think it's, probably a lot of those giving professions, nurses, police, those services, that there is a lot of implied expectations. Yeah. But again, just if you're a non-teaching folk and you are in conversations with teachers, just keep that in mind. There's all these hidden things that is kind of affect a teacher's life. So, conclusions.
Oh, tell you what, term 3. The cool thing with term 3 is then you're closer to term 4. It's one of those. Sun is out. There's a lot of good things still to come. So weather the storms, like literally. Keep warm. Keep all the kids focused on what they need to do. And then when we kick into term 4, end term 3, term 4, sun's out, aircon's on, kids are enjoying what they, it just generally feels a lot better. I'm happier because of the weather.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just have to be back, guys. And thanks for listening, and we'll catch you with the next one. Woo.